I love dialogue-driven dramas, when they're executed well. His Three Daughters is landing on Netflix, and it is an onslaught of emotive discourse. So are you going to want to watch it? Three estranged sisters converge in a New York apartment to care for their ailing father and try to mend their own broken relationship with one another. So this stars Carrie Coon, Elizabeth Olsen, and Natasha Lyonne. The entire movie is filled with rapid-fire dialogue, sometimes humorous, sometimes biting, other times just simply rambling on about one thing or another. Now, the way this entire story plays out, it really could be a stage play and would totally work thanks to the limited set pieces. Now, as I said in the brief synopsis, this takes place in an apartment as three adult sisters come together to care for and then grieve over their declining father. Now, the dynamic between the sisters in this drama, it's the crux of the story. We're watching the examination, the deconstruction, and sometimes reconciliation of a triad relationship, and the story doesn't hold back. Literally from the opening scene, we are bombarded by a seemingly endless barrage of dialogue from Carrie Coon. From her tone, we can catch irritation, some derision, and a twinge of regret mixed with the anger. But the words that she uses also paint a very vivid picture of what she thinks of the situation, as well as her relationship with her other two sisters. Now, Coon is the oldest of the siblings, and we can see characteristically eldest child traits come out within her actions and then her words. And in one sense, it feels a little too easy to just craft the character in such a rote manner. I mean, if you are, or you even have, an older sibling, they tend to take on more of a parental role with the younger ones. Even if everyone is adults, there's still an age hierarchy that just naturally comes about. And Coon is sometimes motherly, but not so much in a nurturing way. She's more commanding and demanding. And while the majority of her screen presence makes her an unsympathetic character, there are softer and more vulnerable moments where we can see her other, more positive traits that kind of poke through, hidden only because of circumstances, fear, and sadness. Now, I love also how distinctly different each sibling is. While Coon is controlling and stiff, Elizabeth Olsen's character, she's the peacemaker. She's kind of happy-go-lucky and just lives in this sort of make-believe positivity. But thanks to some spectacular emoting, we can see the hurt and the longing that sits under her facade. Her interactions with the other two are frustrating a lot of the time, just simply because she becomes a sort of doormat for their barbs, choosing to try and people-please rather than confront the underlying issues. And that's not to say that she's spineless or she can't ever speak up for herself. There are a couple of times when she reaches the breaking point, and I loved not only her expressiveness in those moments, but then the darkly comedic and truthful interactions that follow an explosive episode. And then we've got Natasha Lyonne. She's carefree, but in a way that totally clashes with Coon's uptight and regimented personality. Lyonne is quiet through so much of this, but there are some excellent exchanges that she has with her sisters, as well as an apartment security guard that help to provide some levity, but also give us a truthful insight into her state of mind and her emotions. It's dismissive to just call her a slacker. She's certainly not traditional, and her ways are in continual conflict with how Coon functions and then expects her to function, but this difference also adds dimension to her, allowing her to be unique within the trio. Now, because this is distinctly a dialogue-driven drama, like that alliteration there, well, there is a lack of action and scene changes, which then creates a pace that's steady but slow. And don't mistake slow for boring. Because of all the hypercharged conversations, there's still a good level of stressful energy that permeates every scene. Most of it's biting and strange, which then creates an engaging cadence. I mean, I still felt the time somewhat, making the hour and 41 minutes seem longer than they actually were. Now, the plot trajectory, it's fairly obvious. But since this isn't a mystery, the predictability wasn't much of an issue. The series of events, conflicts and all, play out through a natural progression. But they also don't create anything unique or novel within the storytelling. But even with sameness to other films with this sort of dialogue-driven structure, the end manages to contain some touching and poignant moments that caught me a bit off guard. I mean, the monologues from all of the actors, they're enveloping. Some given with a passionate rhythm that borders on mad shouting, while others are contemplative and patiently presented, just slowly doling out the verbiage so that each word drips with meaning. Not all of the writing is as clever as some other movies that are like this. I mean, think the harrowing drama Mass, or 1994's Oleana. They feature scathingly delivered words that pierce and wound, and those ultimately build stronger narratives than this. But For the broken and reconnecting family drama that this is, the script's on point, and it serves up the needed emotion and tumult that the characters are experiencing. Overall, His Three Daughters is both touching and exhausting, vividly capturing the emotional state of siblings as they come to terms with a loved one's impending death. The acting is fierce, with Coon, Olsen, and Lyonne chewing through the scenes with a line delivery that can either eviscerate or heal. The pacing is deliberate and the progression is familiar, but it's the performances that are the reason to watch, as three experts in their craft give their characters anima simply through their words. There's no sex or nudity, a lot of profanity, no violence. I give His Three Daughters 3.5 out of 5 couches. So do you have any dialogue-driven films that you really enjoy? I mentioned 2 of my favorites earlier, but let me know about yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.